Okay, so in today's video we're just going to show you guys how to make fermented pickles. This is a perfect little snack to introduce young children into fermented foods, and obviously for adults because who doesn't love pickles. So this is just some of the supplies you're going to need. I went and got a bushel of pickling cucumbers, and we're just going to start by washing those, which we have already started. Got a ton of jars here. These nice big ones would be ideal, especially when you're dealing with such a huge quantity. And just some of the ingredients, it's really dependent on, you know, everybody's individual tastes, but we've got some nice organic black peppercorns, some quality Redmond's real salt. You can also use Celtic salt or pink Himalayan salt. I love to have some fresh onions in there. We have some grape leaves, which this time of year are just growing everywhere, I find. This helps with the tannins and keeping the pickles nice and crisp. There's an assorted amount of spices you can get: fennel, coriander, allspice, mustard seeds, dill seeds, celery seeds. It's just dependent on what you like, but we just have a little variety here ready to go. Some other ingredients are fresh garlic, and then obviously fresh dill, which I don't have yet, but we're just about to go pick that up. These are really handy. These are just called fermentation nipples. They're silicone nipples by Mason Tops, and they let the gas escape, but they don't let any oxygen back in, which is ideal for fermenting. And then the kit comes with these nifty little weights. So later on, once we get into it, I'll show you how to put these weights on to really keep everything submerged under the brine. And then lastly, which I guess is probably one of the most important things as well, is you want to have fresh, clean water. You don't want to use just plain old city water. It has a lot of chlorine and who knows what else, byproducts of that processing, which we don't know what's in there, so we just don't want to drink it. Once you finish doing these pickles, you'll have this beautiful brine that's left over, and this brine can actually be such a good tonic to drink as a little gut shot, or even just if you do partake in a little beverage here and there, having a little tiny bit of vodka with the pickle juice, the fermented tonic, is just such a beautiful drink, and you're supporting your gut all at once. So let's get started. Just stop it now. First we got to start by washing them. They're a little bit sandy, so get them all clean, and then after that we'll go ahead and cut the blossoming tip off. So now that we finished washing all of them, we're just going to go ahead and tediously cut off a little bit of the blossoming end. And if you can see, you'll be able to tell because the end where the stem would have been connected to the cucumber is a little bit bigger, and then the blossoming end, you'll notice, is a little bit smaller. So we're just going to take our knife and just barely cut that little end off. The reason being, there's something in that blossoming end tip that has certain enzymes that can make your pickles a little bit more mushy if we leave that on, so we want to go ahead and do that. And then once they're all snipped, we're going to go ahead and put them in water with some ice to get them really nice and cold. All of this will help keep those pickles nice and crisp. Okay, we finally finished them all. We got them packed in there with ice and water. We're gonna leave that for about 30 minutes at least while we prep our onions and garlic and spices and the brine. So now we're making the brine for the fermented pickles, and because we're doing such a huge batch, we're just going to start with half first. In total, for the entire bushel, we're going to need 24 liters of water. We're scaling that down to just 12 liters to start. And then the recipe for the brine, we're actually using the recipe from feastingathome.com. And this is the Manhattan style dill pickles. We're roughly following that recipe. There's different recipes for different strengths of brine. This one we're going to do the 4.5% strength because these pickles I know are going to be sitting for a while. They're going to be fermented for longer, so you need to have a stronger brine if they're going to be fermenting for that long. If you're going to scale it back and just do a normal amount of pickles in your home, it's roughly 2 teaspoons of salt per cup of water. Here we just have a scale because we're just going to measure it out. It's just a lot easier when we're dealing with such a large amount. So we're going to do half this lovely gray Celtic salt, because like I said before, I'm going to be drinking the brine as well, so I want to have the best quality salt. And then the other half we're going to use some Redmond's real salt. And for this amount, I need about 500 grams. There we go. And so you just put your salt in and give that a nice mix. Stir it up until it's nice and mixed up there. And while this is dissolving, we're going to start packing our jars with our pickles and spices and leaves and all that stuff. See you soon. Okay, so now we're just going to start loading some of these jars up. We have a nice blend of assorted pickling spices here. And just going to eyeball it. Some of these big jars are going to need a good couple scoops. And first we're going to put in our spices, then some garlic. We're going to throw in some of those onions that we chopped up. And then some of these grape leaves. We'll just stick those in there on the side. The bigger jars I'm going to put 2. Maybe even 3 for that big one there. So it should just look something like this. Then we're going to go ahead and start packing these in, standing upright. Just start getting them in there. These big jars are definitely ideal. They're nice and cold from sitting in that ice bath for at least a half an hour, but longer if you can. These have been in there for maybe an hour and a bit. They're wedged in there nice and tight. It is good because then they won't float to the top. We want everything to stay really submerged under the brine. So that's your first layer. Then we can go ahead and start getting a second layer going. This jar actually might be 3 layers. Looks like it. looking pretty good. Then we're just going to get some of this brine. And just simply pour it over the top. And for those of you that have done pickling the traditional way, this is going to seem very weird because see, there's no heating. What you're doing is leaving everything, all the enzymes are intact. This is raw and it's going to ferment and stay safe because of the salt that we've added. The salt will keep the bacteria levels down while the good bacteria has time to take over the fermentation. I'm going to go like that. And then what I like to do is just take one of these leaves as like a little safety measure and stick it right on the top there just to make sure any of those little pickles that might be, or the cucumbers that are sticking up, stay away from oxygen and down under the brine. And then we can top it off with one of these fermentation weights as well. And then we find our lid, cap the lid. What you're going to do is want this to sit preferably in a cool, dark area. You don't want it to be in a warm area of your house. The warmer the environment, the faster it's going to ferment. Just a nice cool temperature will give you a very steady fermentation. 3 to 5 days will give you a lightly fermented pickle. I'm going to go ahead and wait a little bit longer and do 2 or 3 weeks. And then once they're done fermenting, you can put these in cold storage if you have a cold cellar, or stick them in your fridge. Once you cool them and get them in the fridge, it will really slow down the fermentation, and that's what you want. And these will last quite some time. I try to do a big batch like this. It will last me hopefully till next year when all the pickles start coming out again. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and now you can get started on doing your own ferments at home. Alright, so we finally finished. This is a whole bushel of cucumbers now fermenting, and they look lovely. Ready to go. I ran out of grape leaf, so I just started using a little wedge of cabbage leaf just to push them down and make sure they don't float up. And right now it looks nice and brightly colored. Eventually you will see the brine will go cloudy. That's perfectly normal. Don't be worried about that. Kind of the rule of thumb is if your ferment smells good and doesn't have visible mold growing on it, and it tastes nice and tangy and fresh and crisp, you are good to go and you shouldn't be worried about it. We have a little bit extra, which I just decided to put in this food safe bucket. We just threw all of our spices and cucumbers in there, and then I'm just weighing it down with 2 pretty heavy plates, and it should be fine. The gases will be able to escape out the side, and I won't store them in there long term. Once they're done and I can get some more jars, I'll just transfer them out because I'd rather not have it in plastic, but for now it did the job. Alright, well that's a wrap. Hope you all enjoyed that.